think everyone's in.
Great. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the University of Washington Postdoc PharmD HEOR Fellowship Information Session. We're very excited to have you join us this afternoon and this evening for those of you that are on the East Coast. My name is Beth Devine. I'm the Associate Director of the Choice Institute and Director of the MS Fellowship Programs. We're really pleased to have you with us today. And we have a great lineup of speakers of our second year fellows and also our staff joining us today. So I'm going to immediately turn it over to them, and then we'll take questions and answers at the end. So first, I'd like our staff to introduce themselves to you.
Bettina?
Hi, I'm Bettina Schifferl, and I work in operations, which means we do a lot of the work that supports the faculty, and I'm glad to see everyone here tonight. And we hope that you don't ever have to talk to us because there may be an issue, but we are here for you when you need something. So just to know that. And I work closely with Marina Gano, who is also here tonight, my colleague.
Great, thanks Bettina. And I'm Marina Gano. I'm the Graduate Program and Operations Manager for the Choice Institute. And it's great to be with you here tonight. So we'll pass it off to one of our second year fellows, Justin.
Thanks, Marina. Hi, everyone. My name's Justin. I'm a second year Genentech fellow, and thank you for joining. This evening, we'll be walking through a brief overview of HEOR, which is Health Economics and Outcomes Research. We'll also share some details about UW's HEOR fellowships. Fellows and I will then present information on the program industry partners, as well as the application process. And then we'll finish with a brief Q&A session at the end. Just to note, please keep your microphone muted until the end. You may submit questions in the chat box, but we'll be answering all questions at the end of the session. Next slide, please. Thank you. So now we'll delve into our overview of HEOR. So for a drug to be approved by the FDA, it must demonstrate safety and efficacy in clinical trials. But to ultimately achieve patient access, we need to demonstrate the value of the product. Next slide, please. So here are some key components of value. Starting in the top left, our stakeholders, which is primarily payers or insurance companies, care about the long-term economic value of a product, as well as the short-term affordability. So to support this, we can conduct studies highlighting the costs and healthcare use of a given population, and we can construct budget impact and cost-effectiveness models to show that our drug is good value for money and has short-term affordability. Moving to the right, our stakeholders may also be interested in how a drug performs outside of a clinical trial setting, or how it compares with another treatment. So to answer these questions, we can perform real-world evidence studies using data sets such as electronic health records or health insurance claims data. We can also support the value of a product by studying the unmet need in a therapeutic area. So we can do this through more epidemiologic studies, assessing incidence and prevalence, or better understanding disparities in testing and treatment. And finally, we can use survey methods and other methods to better understand the patient experience and patient preferences. And of particular importance is health-related quality of life. Next slide, please. So now we'll get into the fellowship programs themselves. So our department is the Comparative Health Outcomes Policy and Economics Institute, or Choice Institute. We're housed within the UW School of Pharmacy, and our mission has 3 pillars. The first is research. So we strive to develop innovative methods and generate actionable evidence about the effectiveness, safety, and value of medical products and services that improve decision-making in healthcare and policy. We also provide transformative training in health economics, outcomes research, and policy analysis to meet contemporary healthcare challenges regionally, nationally, and globally. And finally, we strive to be a leading resource on the effectiveness, safety, and value of medical products and services by providing expertise and facilitating collaborations at the regional, national, and global levels. Next slide. So this is some of the choice faculty that the incoming fellows will have the opportunity to work with and learn from. You can visit the choice website to learn more about their research interests and areas of expertise. Next slide, please. So since 2007, the program has had 43 fellows, 47 publications in peer-reviewed journals, and 74 abstracts presented as posters or podiums. Next slide, please. The first year of the fellowship is focused on academics at the University of Washington. Incoming fellows will gain principles and methods of HEOR through rigorous courses in biostats, epidemiology, economic evaluations, and outcomes research. The incoming fellows will also complete a master's thesis, which is typically a real-world data analysis. Incoming fellows will get to hone their communication skills by presenting Congress posters or publishing manuscripts. And then the master's degree in HEOR will be awarded upon completion of the master's curriculum at the end of the first year. In the second year, each fellow will go to their respective partner companies where they will learn to demonstrate product value using strategically focused HEOR, better understand the role of HEOR in drug development and commercialization, and collaborate cross-functionally with a variety of stakeholders, as well as managing external vendors. And just a note, the fellowship program provides a competitive stipend, insurance, relocation assistance, and travel support, as well as the curriculum is fully covered in the first year. Next slide, please. So this just shows the locations for each of the places that the incoming fellows will be. They will all spend the first year in person at UW, which is in Seattle, and then they will go to their respective partner companies. So CGen is located in Bothell, which is right outside of Seattle. Genentech is in South San Francisco. Bayer is in Whippany, New Jersey. And then the AbbVie fellows will have a few different options in Irvine, Madison, and Chicago, namely. Next slide, please. And this just provides a nice comparison of the different programs that we offer. So all incoming fellows, as I mentioned, will be in person at UW in the first year, and then they will move to any of these second year locations, depending on their partner company. We will be taking 2 fellows for both AbbVie and Genentech, and 1 fellow for each Bayer and CGen. And then one other item to consider is that AbbVie and CGen provide global HEOR exposure, while Bayer and Genentech are more focused on the US market. Next slide. Now I'll hand it off to Anna to tell you more about the AbbVie Fellowship.
Thanks, Justin. Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Dominguez. I'm one of the second year fellows with AbbVie, and I, with my co-fellow Gina, will be giving a brief overview of the AbbVie Fellowship. Starting with our leadership, over on the University of Washington side, our faculty mentor is Beth Devine, who you've all met earlier. And she's actually been the faculty mentor since the very beginning of this program, back when it was an Allergan program, now turned AbbVie. Over on the AbbVie side, we have Amy Tung and Jay Lee, who are also both no strangers to the program, both of them being alumni and past University of Washington AbbVie Legacy Allergan Fellows themselves. Next slide, please. As Justin mentioned earlier, AbbVie typically accepts 2 fellows per cohort, this year being no exception to that. Our first year fellows are Jay and Zach, who both started their first year in Seattle. And over on the Irvine side this year is myself and Gina, who I will be handing it off to.
Thanks, Anna. Hi, everyone. My name is Gina Ahmediar, and as Anna mentioned, I'm the other AbbVie Fellow, and I'll be giving a brief overview of HEOR at AbbVie. So to the left of this slide is a list of the different therapeutic areas that we have at AbbVie, and as you can see, it is a pretty diverse list. I currently work with our ophthalmology team, and Anna works with our aesthetics and regenerative medicine team. And Anna and I both continued on working in the same therapeutic area from our first year into our second year. But I do want to highlight that it's not uncommon for a fellow to switch between therapeutic areas from their first and second year, just depending on business needs and what makes most sense in terms of overall experience for a fellow. And then to the right hand of this slide is a list of potential projects that a fellow may work on during their second year. This includes patient-reported outcomes work, real-world evidence work, economic modeling, and indirect treatment comparisons. But this is not a comprehensive list. And to give some personal examples, I'm currently doing some patient-reported outcome work by helping design a patient preference study for one of our clinical trials. And I'm also doing a real world evidence study using electronic medical records to do some treatment pattern analyses and also some comparative analyses as well. And with that, I'll pass it over to Sandy.
Thank you, Gina. And hi, everyone. My name is Sandy. I am the second year fellow with University of Washington and the Bayer Fellowship. So what you see on the screen is the leadership for Bayer Fellowship. From the University of Washington side, we have Ryan Hansen as our faculty mentor. And from the Bayer side, we have Sheldon Combe, who is the head of research strategy team, which is within the data generation and observational study team. We also have Rakesh Singh as our mentor from the Bayer side, who belongs to the same team as Sheldon. Next slide, please. So Bayer Fellowship accepts one fellow each year, and currently we have Arvind Katar, who is in Seattle right now for his first year training, and Sandy Lee, which is me, at the New Jersey site for the second year training. Next slide, please. So speaking of therapeutic areas, Bayer covers quite broad areas, including cardiorenal, oncology, women's health, cardiopulmonary, hematology, and some of the early pipeline products. And the Bayer Fellows will have opportunities of different projects that are listed on the right side over here. So examples including but not limited to on the data visualization dashboard, also called a patient dashboard, real-world evidence studies, which utilize the claim database to answer your research questions, AMCP dossier, and a modeling project such as the budget impact model. If you are interested in the systematic literature review projects, you can also get this experience. And this is a very brief overview of the Bayer Fellowship. I will now hand over to our Genentech Fellows, Justin and Tommy.
Thanks, Sandy. So the incoming Genentech Fellows will have the opportunity to be mentored by Dave Veenstra and Asta Bansal. And the preceptor, I guess, mentor over at the Genentech side is Jennifer Whiteley, and she heads up the neuroscience and rare disease group with Genentech. Next slide, please. You want to go?
Hi, and
did we skip one? Thanks. Thanks, Gina. So each year, Genentech takes 2 fellows. Our first year fellows are Spencer and Stella. And my co-fellow is Tommy, and that's me. In the second year, we're both in South San Francisco at Genentech. Now I'll turn it over to Tommy.
So sorry I jumped the gun there, Justin. So I'm here to talk about the therapeutic areas and the projects that you could be doing at AbbVie, or at Genentech, sorry. So Genentech covers a wide range of therapeutic areas, oncology being a main driver, but we do go in these areas as well. To give you some personal experience, I am in neuroscience, specifically under Alzheimer's disease. Some projects that you could be doing are wide-ranging. That it definitely is not an all-encompassing list. Real-world evidence, budget impact modeling, even some more unique stuff like patient-provider surveys. That's a project that I'm currently on right now, working with a vendor that I'm really enjoying. And the more bread and butter activities like cost effectiveness analyses and literature reviews and things like that. So with that, I will pass it over to Phoebe to talk about the CGen Fellowship.
Hey y'all. I'm Phoebe Wright. I am an alum of the Choice CGen UW Fellowship Program. So now I'm a manager at CGen, here to speak about the UW mentor is Dr. Josh Carlson. His expertise is in modeling, and he's very good at real world data analyses as well. And then Jolt Hepp is the CGen contact for the fellowship. Next slide. I am the first fellow that CGen had, and then Jacob Silvers was our second fellow. So I'm now a CGen manager in health economics. Jacob did a career pivot, and now he's in the operations research and systems analyst for the U.S. Army. So this shows how diverse of opportunities you will have with this degree and the skill set that you'd acquire as a fellow. There was a break after Jacob, but now we're restarting the fellowship. So there's no current fellow. Next slide, please. In terms of what therapeutic areas and projects that we have available, there are 4 marketed products that we have. They're all oncology specific. We're a mid-sized biotech company focused in oncology, and they span all across the life cycle. So Adcetris is entering the twilight of its career. We have 3 other products, Padcev, Tukysa, and Tivdak, that are ongoing global launches. And then we have a robust pipeline. And the reason why I mention that is because where the product is kind of determines what projects you'd be working on. So since we have products that array the life cycle, that allows for a diverse set of experiences based on the fellow's interests. So for example, you would get launch experience not only in the US, but globally. Our fellows may have the opportunity to manage the patient-reported outcomes of a clinical trial. And then the real-world evidence generation is going to be important across all products, and then economic modeling. In addition to that, a big component of CGen is engaging with external KOLs. So in addition to the technical experience, it's a priority of CGen that the fellows also gain the soft skills needed to be successful as a health economist. So I'm talking about cross-functional collaboration, and both internally and externally. So you would be interfacing with providers on the regular. In addition to the HEOR specific experiences, one of CGen's priorities is that the fellow gain experience in HEOR adjacent functions. So the fellow would leave with understanding the bigger picture of how HEOR fits into the system at large. Next slide, please. Here are some of our recent fellowship alum. And you can see that they all landed jobs, which was like my #1 criteria for choosing a fellowship. And they're really cool jobs. So if you can see, Brennan now works for a data vendor. Lots of pharma. We're all over the health economics and in pharma. We have Sam Huang went to a diagnostics company, so your skills can pivot to diagnostics. And then, yep, you can see that pharma is the main source of where our fellows end up. Next slide, please. I'm going to pass it off to Tommy to talk about the application process.
Thanks, Phoebe. So I'll walk you through the application process over the next couple slides here. You can go to the next slide, Gina. So just an overview of some important dates that you want to be aware of. To be eligible for the fellowship, you must get your degree in pharmacy by July 1st of 2023, and you must hold U.S. citizenship or have permanent residency status to apply. The application deadline is October 28th, 2022. For those selected for an interview, they will be notified by November 2nd of 2022. Virtual interviews will take place the week of November 7th, 2022. And if you are selected for an offer for the fellowship, you will be notified November 11th, 2022, and decisions are requested by November 14th and 15th of 2022. And your program start date, if you choose to accept your offer, will be July 1st of next year, 2023. You can go to the next slide. So some just quick application and interview tips here. We recommend that you contact your recommenders early and include a cheat sheet about yourself, the program, and why you are applying to this program, along with the formal request. This really helps your recommender to get to know really important things that they might want to include in the letter. Secondly, submit a strong, focus, and well-edited CV. You really want to highlight things that will speak to why you could be good for this fellowship. So research skills, data analysis skills, relevant rotations or electives or courses or presentations. These could be everything from, industry appies to some, academic work you did with a professor, anything like that. And then of course, you definitely want to add any leadership experience that you may have had. And then specifically really highlight any projects that would have been relevant to HEOR. So any sort of HEOR type skill, even if it necessarily wasn't, labeled HEOR at the time, but now you think back and you're like, well, you know what, that was something that was sort of real world evidence-y, or I did some sort of budget impact kind of thing while I was on rotation or something like that. Definitely want to add those types of experiences. And then don't forget to send thank you emails to your recommenders. That's really important. And then this is probably the biggest thing, especially for interviews. Just relax and as best you can, and be calm and be yourself. We want to hear about your experiences, but we really want to know who you are, and try to understand you as a person the best we can during these interviews. And it just helps to try to be calm and be yourself during that. So you can go to the next slide. So how to apply? Just really quick off the top, we want to say that we will not be using ASHP PPS this year. So you will apply directly through the UW Graduate School, and it can be found at this URL here. I won't go through all of these steps, but it is important to select all of these things. So you want to select this program specifically, so pharmacy, and then health economics and outcomes research, and then make sure it says MS afterwards, and then make sure that the quarter and year are fall 2023. And this is important. You do want to add which fellowship programs you're applying to. I mean, you can select all that apply, and if you can go to the next slide, I'll explain how this works a little bit more. This is what the website will look like. Those are those three things that I just mentioned there that you all want to have selected correctly. And if you have them selected correctly, you should, this fourth line will pop up here and give you the options of what fellowships to apply for. You can select 1, 2, 3, or all, and there is no ranking or anything like that. So whatever you want to put in is fine. The order does not matter. So you can go to the next slide. And then this is just kind of farther along when you're going through the application process. This is what like your interface will look like. You just want to have something like that put in there, where whatever pharmacy school you're graduating from. And then this on the left is all the different things that you'll have to submit. And then it's important that I just wanted to highlight one more time that all the application materials must be submitted by the October 28th deadline. And just wanted to highlight here, there is an application fee of $85 paid to the UW Graduate School. And you can go to the next slide. If $85 is a burden for you, there is an application fee waiver process. They're based on our financial need waiver fees are available through the grad school. The fee waiver request must be submitted at least 7 days before the deadline, so at least 7 days before that October 28th deadline. And then the eligibility criteria is based on financial need. So they base it on 100% of median family income, and reported income should be based on the most recent tax year. And then you can go to that URL to really get more information on this. And with that, this is my last slide about the application process. So I'll pass the ball back over to Beth to close us out here.
Great, thank you very much, Tommy. So that's the end of our formal presentation, and we at this point would like to entertain any questions that you have for us. I know we have a couple of them in the chat already that we've addressed and are in the process of addressing. So if you want to raise your hand, I think that might be the best way to go about this. Looking through all of you here. I'm not seeing hands. Maybe anybody else is. Let me go ahead and read out these questions and answers from the chat in case you haven't had a chance to look at them. So there was a question about the AbbVie fellowships, and is there a choice of where one is located during the second year, or is that decision based on business needs? The answer to that question is up until now, and it's been, what, 3 years now, I think, where we've had these multiple locations for the AbbVie fellowship. Each fellow is offered an opportunity to state a preference, and every fellow has been accommodated to date. So I don't foresee any problems with being in the location that the fellow feels is most convenient. Although expressing that upfront and having a conversation with the mentors and the company is an important step as well. The next question we had was, does one need to be licensed in the state of Washington as a pharmacist, or then in the second year licensed in the state you're going to for your company in order to be eligible for the fellowship? And the answer to that question is one does not have to be licensed at all. There's no direct patient care involved. So licensure is not required in either of the 2 years. Having said that, most individuals who come out of a PharmD program are really interested in being licensed right away. And I would say that most of our fellows have gone ahead and sought and obtained licensure in their home state or the state of their preferred choice, separate and apart from the fellowship. And often they do that during the summer of that first year. And then the next question is, if applying to multiple programs and you'd like to use address, who should the letter be addressed to? And Marina has answered that one for us, and she stated that you will receive individual emails to complete the recommendation. If you're in doubt and you don't know to whom to address your application or your letter, you can put the UW Choice MS Fellowship Admissions Committee. If you'd like, if you're offered the opportunity to submit individual letters, my recommendation would be that you include the names of the mentors for your particular company. So that's what's in the chat right now.
It looks like Alex has his hand raised.
Okay, go ahead, Alex.
Thank you so much. I thought I'd break the ice. Maybe I'll get other people energized. Appreciate it. I had like a first year and kind of second year fellow question. So in that first year, knowing that there's maybe a handful of 6 students together for classes, are they kind of maybe working together in certain projects or studies, or is it more independent study? And then to follow up, like in the second year fellow, kind of understanding, I'm sure there's a lot of content and deliverables you have to like create, but I know at least Segan was mentioning as a fellow to get those interactive experiences, or is a fellow expected to maybe talk with KOLs, like maybe clinicians or GPOs? And just thinking also, sorry, just one more, maybe in terms of like the portfolios, they're pretty large for companies. So I know starting out as a fellow, are you mainly looking at a drug molecule or a disease state, or just how much breadth do you cover? sorry if that was a lot. I can always break it down.
Okay, I'm going to start out with 1 and 3, and I'm going to let the fellows take 2 and then
Appreciate
weigh in on 1 and 3 if you guys want. So with regards to the first year and the projects and the classes, I'm proud to say that the UW Choice Institute is a very collaborative place, and all of our fellows in their first year or their year here, and also the first year PhD students and sometimes the second year PhD students are all taking the same classes. So they often are in our graduate room together and maybe conducting homework assignments together. Whether or not there are group projects is probably up to the individual course master, and not all of the course masters are in the Choice Institute. For example, biostatistics is not within Choice, it's in biostats. Similarly for EPI, and whether or not they have group assignments is up to those professors. Although I would state that usually it's homework assignments rather than group assignments for the courses that the fellows take. For our own classes, like the decision modeling class and the outcomes class, each individual student, regardless of whether they're MS or PhD students, has their own course-long project that's an individual project. But again, having said that, the students work together, they share a space, certainly collaborate with one another and answer questions and provide support for each other. So that's the first one. And then I think the second one is related to being at the company in the second year and therapeutic areas. Does someone else want to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. I think you're quite well. I'll answer. I'll just kind of give my answer, and if I didn't hit anything, let me know. But kind of the second year, as far as breadth goes, in general, at least from my co-fellows' experiences and my experience, you are generally working on in one therapeutic area and in usually around one molecule. That's generally because your preceptor is usually within one therapeutic area and one molecule, because we kind of sit on HEOR strategy teams. So it's kind of a broad thing where we're doing what we were saying, where we're managing projects and things like that. As far as talking to KOLs or clinicians or GPOs, I haven't heard of anybody necessarily doing that, but that's not necessarily because it doesn't happen. I would imagine, especially if you were like, let's say, collaborating on a publication or something like that, you might talk to a KOL. So it definitely can happen. And so yeah, I wouldn't say it's like a day-to-day thing that we do in HEOR, but it is something that is done. I think that's all you asked about the second year, but if I missed anything, feel free to repeat.
No, you nailed it, and honestly, it was a really good insight. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
no worries.
would like to speak to this actually, because CGen's mid-sized and it's oncology focused. So this is one of the key differences between CGen and the other fellowships. So at CGen, what we've historically done is we sit down with the fellow, see what projects they're interested in, and then match the right project based on their interest and based on what's going on across all the molecules. So you'll be specific to cancer because that's all CGen has right now, but you wouldn't be specific to a particular molecule. It would be based on what your interest is. And then in terms of KOL interaction, so engaging with clinicians, we'd coach up the fellow. So we have those relationships already built, and you're encouraged to build those relationships. But once you're in the second year, doing projects, it's important to get external buy-in. And that's like the most awesome part of the job, is just like engaging with the clinicians who are out there. So we coach you up to have productive conversations and help you get that feedback and incorporate it into your project, because we want your projects to be successful for you and for the company.
Great, thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Phoebe. I agree with both of those. There will be some subtle differences amongst the different fellowship opportunities. Let me revisit the first year just for a second in choosing the master's thesis project. That's one of the issues that varies amongst the companies. I know at AbbVie, usually it is a strategic decision about which therapeutic area the fellow will work in. And within that therapeutic area, often there is a choice to be made of which projects to pursue. I will say in that regard, when you're in the UW fellowship, the most important thing is to pick up the methods and the methods skills. And the secondary interest is the therapeutic area of focus. Having said that, if there's an opening in a particular therapeutic area that matches the company, then certainly the fellow, those interests are taken into consideration. I think at Bayer, it's a little different where the first year project, and maybe at some of the other fellowships as well, the project is less well defined and more up to the fellow, like do a project in oncology. And so the fellow has the world is their oyster with regard to their thesis project. So that, there's leeway both ways. In the second year, usually you do focus on a therapeutic area, as both Tommy and Phoebe have said. Having said that, again, there's an opportunity perhaps to pick up another project in the second area, or if not, at least to pick up additional method skills in another area. So if you've done a database analysis already and you want to pick up some survey skills, then usually that is honored as well to the extent that the company can do that. So I always just encourage the fellows to speak up and state preferences in a very professional way, and everyone will do what they can to accommodate those. Okay, so here's another one related, I think. Do the fellows get exposure to the different therapeutic areas before they focus on the specific one in the second year? Not necessarily. Again, the focus of the fellowship is not to do more therapeutics, but rather to focus on methods. And each of the companies has different areas of therapeutic focus. Sometimes it's based on strategy. And within that, still the fellow is free to extend their preferences to see what can be matched. Other questions? Taking a run through here.
And Beth, I have several pre-submitted questions that I'd be happy to go through if there aren't any additional live questions.
Oh, I'm not seeing anyone else, so.
Oh, it looks like Aline unmuted.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
sorry. Sorry. Hi, my name is Aline. I have a question. I just want to double check. So for the personal statement, we don't address it to one specific company. It would be generic. And the same with the letter of intent. The people who are writing our, not letter of intent, sorry, letter of recommendation. The people who are writing them, they will get an email, right? Is that correct? Just want to make sure.
Maria?
Yeah, so what the process for, I guess, addressing kind of who to address it to, if you're applying for more than one fellowship, I would recommend having your letter writers as well as you on your personal statement, addressing it pretty generally to, selection committee or something like that. As far as how the recommendation process works, there is on the online application under the application item for letters of recommendation, you would enter in a form your recommender's information and their email address. And once you click add recommender, it automatically sends them an invitation via that email to fill out a short online assessment as well as upload a letter. So a best practice would be to give your recommender a heads up or, get their permission, if you're using them as a letter writer before entering their information into the form, as I can imagine if they weren't expecting that, it might be a little confusing. But to my point of what I had put in the chat was that you're able to start your application now at any point, and you can designate those recommenders, and they can work on the letter submission process even before you submit your application. And so since we're about a month out from the deadline, if you're planning to apply, I think now's a good time to start that process.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marina. Do you want to go ahead with the other questions you had in the chat, provide some answers?
Yeah, so I was reviewing the registration report and we had some really great questions that came in pre-submitted. So we'll kind of open it up to maybe some of our second-year fellows. What is a memorable experience that a past fellow can speak to?
I can take this one.
I was gonna say, past fellows, go for it.
Sorry, I was just trying to find the button. I would say the most memorable experience is just watching your thesis grow over the course of the fellowship, from an idea in the beginning that's pitched to you over the summer to then doing your protocol and the statistical analysis plan, and then getting your data and running your code and getting your results and then putting it all up into the thesis. I think it's just amazing to just watch it grow. And I think that's been definitely the most memorable experience for me, to take the research from an idea to an actual product.
I'll chime in and say I think the most memorable aspect for me was a cabin trip that all of the fellows went on just to kick off the year. It was really great, just kind of being there with a group of us and all getting to know each other and working together and learning from each other. Something to look forward to.
Nice, thank you both.
I have a good experience. So we had one of our drugs, which was compared to standard of care. And then a competitor came out also against standard of care, and there's no head-to-head trials with our drug versus their drug. So one of my projects second year was managing an indirect comparison between us and the competitor product. And you can see that that would be very high risk for a pharma company to do. So I got to lead conversations with CGen leadership on why we should do that type of study, and then educate them on the methods about it. And the whole time I was thinking, I have no business leading these conversations as a fellow, but I was so well prepared during the course of my coursework, and then throughout the first half of my second year, that I was able to productively lead those conversations. It was awesome.
Thanks, Ruby.
So another pre-submitted question, what does mentorship look like within this fellowship program?
So I can start off with that one, and then I'd open it up to our fellows as well. Again, I think we at the Choice Institute are really, really proud of our collaborative nature, not only among the students, but between the faculty and the students as well. And I know that I meet with my fellows once a week throughout the entire year, and help them in selecting coursework, and certainly with their thesis and whatever else it is that they need that is helpful to make their year successful. During the second year, then during the first year, then we also meet with the AbbVie mentors, only less frequently, unless something comes up related to the protocol or the strategy or something like that. And then as they transition to the second year, those roles switch, and I take more of a backseat, and the AbbVie mentors play the primary role. But again, the fellows are welcome to reach out at any time, and we check in every once in a while. It is important to note that all fellows during both years are still employed by the University of Washington and not by the company during their second year. So that's actually a protection for the fellows, and usually works out really, really well. And even though they're aligned with the company and are having a great time, they're still employed by the University of Washington. So we offer a really collaborative and supportive environment, at least from my perspective. What about the fellows? What do you guys think?
I'll second that, Beth. I think the mentorship that you'll get through the program is second to none. Beth, Dave, Josh, Ryan, this is a big part of their job. This is what they do, is they take young students with a lot of potential and help them grow and see it through. I can say that Tommy and I met with our Genentech mentors weekly, and I found that the mentorship I received was very personalized, tailored to me. Dave was very good at supporting me where necessary and also pointing out the opportunities for me to grow. And that's just what I needed as I was going through the program. So I can't say enough great things about the mentorship.
Oh my gosh, I'm shouting from the rooftops how good this mentorship is. To get a little bit personal here, 2020 was my, the first half of 2020 was my first year fellowship, and I was 6 months pregnant at the start of COVID. And everybody on the choice faculty was there to support me as my development as a person before my development as a health economist. So yeah, you can't get better than the UW faculty. And then at CGen, I liked my mentor so much that now I work for him. So clearly there's that speaks volumes on his ability.
Yeah, and I can agree more with Phoebe, Justin, and Beth just said. The mentorship we received at UW is non-comparable. So I can speak for my experience from the Bay Area side, and then with our University of Washington mentor, Ryan. Whenever I need help, I can always reach out to Ryan. He really responds in the timely matters. And from the Bay Area team side, we get to meet like once monthly as a first year fellow. And then once you get to the second years, we also get to meet once monthly with the University of Washington in order to connect with our first year fellow as well. And I can say that Ryan, as well as the Bay Area mentors, they really take your success personally. So whenever you need help, they are always reachable and accessible for you.
I also want to add to that. No news here, but yeah, 100% supportive the whole way through. We alluded to picking therapeutic areas earlier, and my AbbVie team and Josh and Ryan during my first year of fellowship have always been very open to listening to my interests and what I want to pursue and what I really want to gain. During when I first started my second year of fellowship, my AbbVie mentors, who I've already established a pretty good relationship with the first year, they had us do an individual development plan. And she's like, just list out everything you want to gain the second year. And I listed out like the whole kitchen, everything but the kitchen sink pretty much, just wanting to put it out there. And she and all the AbbVie team and all the support, they've tried to make sure I meet and have a plan for everything that I want to achieve in my second year. And so I never felt more supported in a program. So very happy.
Okay, maybe cover just one more question here. This is an interesting question that was pre-submitted. Could you provide an overview about the role of the pharmacist in this fellowship? So kind of how does the pharmacy training guide you towards this program?
Yeah, so I'll start out with that one. As a pharmacist from way back when, there is no direct patient care, and so it's not a practice of pharmacy at all. However, having said that, the clinical knowledge that the students bring to the table is second to none. And in my view, you use that clinical knowledge every day and expand on it to conduct your health economics and outcomes research. You've had rotations, you understand what it's like to care for patients, you know what they care about, you know the issues in the healthcare system. And so I think the PharmD degree is just a fabulous degree to bring into the fellowships. I'd like to hear from the fellows as well. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I can take that one just briefly here. I think the great thing about being having that pharmacy training is every time we might branch into like a different disease area, there's not as much of a learning curve as colleagues that might have less of a clinical background, and that just helps you so much with like understanding the whole landscape before having to dive into researching it and stuff like that. So that really helps. And then the other thing that really helps for me is I did a lot of rotations with managed care pharmacy, and that helps a ton because that's kind of a lot of times like the audience that we're trying to reach with our studies and trying to convince them of the value of our drug. So if you understand how they work and what they care about and what they value, that helps immensely when you're on the pharma side trying to, yeah, impress them.
I can also chime into that. I currently at AbbVie sit within the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Team, or the PCOR team. So we're very patient-centric. We do a lot of PRO validation studies, and this really ties in a lot with my past, pharmacy student experience work, because a lot of the stuff that I mostly enjoyed about being a pharmacist was hearing patient stories and what patients prefer. And it really hones in that aspect of it, being able to kind of put that clinician hat on in the HEOR realm.
Marina, do you have any more?
Looks like a question just came in. Are there any teaching opportunities?
Yeah, so that's a good question too. There may be an opportunity to give a guest lecture here and there, is how I would answer that question. The 9-month curriculum for the MS program at UW is very, very rigorous, and the students are really busy. And so we don't encourage like a formal TA-ship for a quarter or anything like that. But if a fellow were to feel strongly that they have expertise in an area and would like to deliver a lecture, then we would certainly reach out to the involved faculty member and try to arrange that.
Okay, and then another pre-submitted question. How should P4s interested in HEOR without HEOR related research experience approach the application process to be successful?
So that's a great question, actually. And as a P4, one has probably limited opportunities to gain that HEOR experience because one has already signed up for all the APPE rotations. So if I make that assumption that the APPE rotations are already set and there's no opportunity, then it's probably a pretty heavy lift, particularly at the University of Washington. We're a really competitive program, and we do look specifically for HEOR experience, be that through APPEs, through research experiences with some of the pharmacy faculty with whom one has worked and gone to school, through the AMCP Pharmacy and Therapeutics competition, through managed care experiences. We really do appreciate all of those types of experiences and look at them. In addition, we require or rely on each fellow to tell us from their heart why they're interested in the field of HEOR. And certainly if they've had experience today in that field, then that speaks to that. It would be a much tougher sell, I think, for an applicant without any experience to know that that's what they're interested in. So it's not impossible. And certainly give it a shot if that is the situation in which you find yourself. And at that point, we would be relying on your letters of recommendation and your letters of interest explaining why you really have a heartfelt interest in this particular field and why you're moving toward it during the 4th year of pharmacy school. And then your application, of course, would be given full consideration.
Yeah, real world evidence generation is kind of like benchwork science, in that some people love it and some people hate it. And what we don't want is for you to get into a program and then decide that like this isn't for you, just because like you thought that you would like it and then you didn't. So that's kind of why it's important to have something to speak to or some reason why you want to go into HEOR. Because if your end goal is to go into industry, there's much easier ways than this program to get into industry. This is for people who just have a passion for outcomes research.
Thanks, Phoebe, that's helpful. Others? Marina, do you have any more?
I'm looking through the questions and we've pretty much covered most of it. I guess we haven't quite explicitly addressed the question about expectations for location and hybrid versus in-person. Someone asked about that, and just to be really clear that the expectation for year one would be to be in Seattle and it's an in-person experience. And then this for year two would be to locate to the city of your sponsor company.
And then from there, it's up to your sponsor company to determine whether or not they have a hybrid environment for the coming year, which none of us know because they're still in flux and they're all over the map. Having spoken with a lot of them last week, some of them are requiring 3 days a week. Everyone in the company will need to be in attendance in person at their desk Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and other companies that are fully remote. But at this point, it is our requirement that the fellow relocate to the city of the company for the second year, because things will change before then. Great. Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, I'd like to offer our fellows one additional opportunity to say anything that we might have missed or last thoughts before we close. Any of you guys?
Feel free to reach out if you have questions or would just like to learn more about the fellowship and each respective partner company. We're all very friendly and happy to chat.
That's really nice. Thank you, Justin. I know that applies to everybody. And the same applies to our staff and to myself as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to send an email, and you have our contact information here on this slide. And so at this point, then we'll go ahead and close off. Thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you so much to all of our fellows and our staff who have provided this webinar for you today. And we look forward to receiving your applications. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.